Good morning out there, traders. It is June 12th, 2024, and welcome to the Apteros DMI or Daily Market Insight. Let's start with our recap from yesterday. So, yesterday we had a pretty straightforward type of scenario where we were looking at scenario one being more rotational inside of this value area. A breakout from there was basically what we were looking for scenario two. And it was kind of a weird day yesterday. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't as straightforward as I'd hoped because we ended up seeing the breakdown getting into scenario two, coming into the open here, going down, reaching some target areas that we were kind of looking for, and then just this methodical grind all the way back up with no opportunities to get short out of the switch, right? So the acceptance picture changed. We were still in scenario two. We were looking for a turn, a rollover, something. Nothing. Nothing comes of that. We get up in here and then we start holding above our line in the sand, coming back into scenario one. So this is one of those days where the morning really not much for us to do. We get a breakdown that doesn't have a pullback really in it. So unless you're a breakout trader, no real opportunity here. The pullback doesn't produce an opportunity at all. Then we actually start holding inside, switching back to scenario one. Then we get our holds. We get our nice holds here, operating on scenario one, a clean move all the way across right into our main target area there. And then, of course, holding above for the end of the session. And coming into today, more numbers coming out this morning. So not really information for us to use today, but you can see how our target areas are being respected and so forth. But definitely one of those days where an interesting morning, really not much opportunity out there. The main stuff coming really around noon, lunchtime, something like that, into the afternoon, getting a really nice move across value here from A to B. All right. So let's take a look at what's going on today. Okay, so obviously some volatility coming in this morning a little bit, and we've adjusted everything kind of according to our analysis and our framework. Right now, we have two neutral areas out here that are kind of extremes whenever it comes to the risk-reward landscape. And what I mean by that is, the further and further we push out here, the more extreme the scenario becomes in terms of holding and having and requiring energy to continue to trend. So what we're looking at here essentially are some outer extremes of neutral areas that are basically target zones. It looks like we're getting an inflection possible for this scalp here, but kind of once we get out to here, that's really the main target for our up move. From there, there's really not much for our analysis to follow along with besides our intraday framework. If you use our intraday framework stuff, you could follow imbalances or something like that during the intraday session. But for the most part, this kind of day might just end up being like a sit on your hands, wait and see kind of thing, because the only real trade setup that we have is back here, a lot lower, and we're looking at scenario one being a hold in that bullish location up above, scenario two being a breakdown, looking for this neutral area down below here as the target. So it's really just a situation where this number has kind of stretched our analysis, stretched our time frames out a little bit, and now we kind of sit and wait and see what the whole session has for us. We do have a pretty clear line in the sand for multiple time frames, so that's good. That's checked for the narrative and context. But the reality is that we're just so far out in the risk reward landscape that there's not much for us to do right now. We'll see how the session develops. It could be a setup that comes in tomorrow or the day after. It could be coming in later in the afternoon. Just depends on how the pullback occurs. If we do get a pretty steep pullback back into this line in the sand, that would be what we're looking for overall in today's session. So kind of a tricky situation to find yourself in whenever you get stretched out like this from some news or a catalyst or something like that. Generally, we are more bullish in this point, so we're just kind of waiting for what's going on up in this area. We are out at some extremes on some higher time frames, so definitely something to consider for those of us who are more adept with NADRO and the intraday framework and so forth. I've mentioned a lot of this in our student community, so if you're a student, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Trade well out there, mind your risk, and let's get after it today if you get a chance to trade at all.